All of the don't ever read. Let me see if I can pull this up. And we back. Fly, you there?
Yeah, I just got the
Yes, yeah.
notification about you about gender pronouns.
Yeah, you seen the little description? That how on point, ain't it? I'm ready, bro. I'm pulling up the YouTube interview that made me even think about this shit.
A word? Okay.
Yeah. We can do that, like do that as a
I'm waiting on
reaction.
Desiree because you
She
got
just
her
popped in. I'm about to
right
put
in the
her
middle
in
of
right
her
now.
response.
Yeah, so you were saying, what were you saying, Fly with it, when I brought up gender pronouns?
I just want to know how to know which one to use, and do you just ask it off the rip? Like when do you know to ask?
That is a great question.
Can we give
I
people a story first?
Yeah, go ahead.
A backstory.
Yeah, kind of like, I mean, just for the people that join, like I asked the question of did do people want to discuss gender pronouns because you have non-binary people, and I don't know if I'm politically correct, but I'm just trying to get it out. You have basically these new, would you call these sexual orientations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No.
or genders.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
Oh, that's right. You see the way she stood up.
Gender identity is different than sexual
Gender
orientation.
identity. There you go.
Yeah.
You have these new gender identities, and they're requesting to be called certain pronouns versus the ones that we're used to, which are he, she, him, her, they, and so on. So, Fly With It was just asking, how do you know what to call someone if they want to be called something other than the classical pronouns that we're used to? Desiree, you have the floor.
Yeah. I want to offer another quick like learning moment is that the way that people identify in regards to their gender, even like currently, like when we are talking about like trans men, trans women, and I'm non-binary people, those identities have always existed. There have always been people on this planet that did not identify with the gender that they were assigned at birth,
I'm taking
and
notes.
it feels new now to a lot of people because we didn't always have the language to say, "Hey, this is how I identify," and um, especially here in the states, everything is colonialized. So, Native communities have always had trans people. They refer to them as two spirit people. Like it's always been a thing. So
Hmm.
that's the one thing. And then to Rodney's point, um, yeah, you ask the same way you don't know someone's name, the same way you don't know. Maybe some folks like to be referred to as like yes ma'am, no ma'am. Um, Especially here in the South, and depending on what age range you're talking about or talking to. Um, yeah, I would ask if at any point you're unsure. It's as simple as, "Hey, what's your name? What's your pronouns?" And
Whoa.
yeah,
This shit is heavy for me, bruh.
is
Uh,
it?
It is like it goes back to our conversation that me and you had. That's a deeper one, and I think we'll probably unpack here in a second. But
Mhm.
I'm about to share what you just shared with us, and this shit just fucked me up. Like the fact that I did not know that. Hold on, how do I pull up the screen?
We can
Because
see
it's
your
the
screen.
wrong
Gender
one.
pronouns or no, not
Yeah,
that one.
but that was the wrong one though. Let me see. I wanted to show the two spirit people. Like, bro, I just did some quick research while she was talking, and she's not lying. And
Wow. Did you think I was?
well, I feel like if I don't know about it, it's
Then it
skeptical.
didn't
Like,
exist?
yeah,
Wow.
it might
All
not
right.
be the truth. But I thought it was a modern thing. like maybe natives on reserves, but as you can see,
Mhm.
8 things you should know about two-spirit people. Two-spirit people have been present in native communities for countless generations that predate
Countless.
LGBTQ terminology.
Yes.
Wow.
But what
Um,
is that?
What does two spirit mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Well,
let's look it up.
in I don't want to speak for Native communities. I'm not Native, but my understanding of it is two spirit people are people who do not fall within our quote unquote traditional like binary of man and woman. They're
Hmm.
actually regarded as like very special individuals in Native communities. They're like to be honored and to be respected um, because they're two spirited people. And it's like, if for people that know anyone who is trans, I'm fortunate to have trans people in my community, and they really are. There's a certain level of um, what is the word that I'm looking for? There's a certain level of like genuineness that the trans people that I know possess because to literally look at the world outside you and have the world outside you tell you you are this, but to know different for yourself and to actually live in your own truth
Hmm.
and not fall
Hmm.
into whatever the people are telling you.
The
That's like,
material realm, not
yeah,
letting that shit influence you. That's real.
yeah,
That that's spiritual than a bitch. Damn, that's deep. Like this is the thing that's very interesting to me. The fact that you know them, but I don't. But hold on, let me read this definition. Um, because fly with it ass. Traditionally, Native American two spirit people were male, female, and sometimes intersex individuals who combined activities of both men and women with traits unique to their status as two spirit people. In most tribes, they were considered neither men nor women. Damn, I was about to say, hold on, they missing a big piece, and there you go. Men nor women, they occupied a distinct alternative gender status. Wow. What do you think this was covered up in
yes,
the for the sake of patriarchy?
yes,
What the fuck?
yes. It's the reason. It's the same
Wow.
reasoning why, and you might run into what I would refer to as like hoteps now, who would say that like homosexuality or transness are things of like are like white
Unnatural.
people things,
Right.
and
Artificial.
it's not real. It's actually the white people that came in and it was like, wow, y'all are expressing yourselves a little bit too much.
It's a
Here's this
spiritual
Bible.
freedom,
Yeah,
right? That what the fuck? That's
yeah,
crazy. That got heavy quick and real really fast. So this is my thing. The reason why I know about it, and I want us to watch this little quick video. I don't know if he's gonna. I found the shortest one I can find. On Jordan Peterson. Are y'all familiar with Jordan Peterson? He's a ex professor from a Canadian university, uh, identified in the media as far right, but he's a philosopher. And I actually love watching Jordan Peterson talk. One of the reasons is because he's on the far right, so I get like some perspectives that I don't normally get to come across, and they're articulated in a philosophical tone. So it's not like he's just being super racist or like not being sensitive to other people. It's articulated intellectually and like you can still grab some value out of it. Now, that's how this came across my radar. Earlier when I was doing my little spiritual routine, I was listening to one of his interviews, and there was a media person, almost paparazzi style, but more so a journalist, since he's famous, but not you know what I mean, like a entertainer icon in the music industry or anything. But they ran up to him and they asked him if some people that got hurt at one of his rallies, does he condone that? And he handled himself really well, but then they put the gender pronoun thing on him because he feels that we shouldn't change our pronouns. I want him to speak for it for himself. Hopefully he covers it in this interview because I don't want to waste 8 minutes of our time, but fuck it, I'm gonna roll the dice and take the risk. It's his Joe Rogan interview, which I can see this little stream that I'm doing getting bigger than Joe. I'm coming for you, Joe. But check this out. Let me know if y'all can hear it. Can you hear that?
No, we're still on the Google.
Okay. Hold on. Good, because Fitness Connection trying to put an ad on my shit anyway. Let me see. Share screen, Chrome tab, Jordan Peterson, Lego. Can y'all see that?
Join for just $10 down and $10 a month. No other gym gives you this much space, all-inclusive amenities, unlimited classes, and more. Join Fitness Connection today for 10 down and 10 a month.
Hello, freak bitches.
Yeah.
That's my fundamental orientation, and so, or my fundamental concern. I mean, I don't expect people to be 100% honest, because of course, who is, I mean, that's a hell of a high standard to hold anyone to. But all of that is smoke and mirrors, and I think the people who are after me know it.
Well, let's get through some of that then. Yeah. Just to sort of establish it for people maybe that don't know. What issues do you have any issue whatsoever with someone being transgender?
No, I don't have any issue with that. What I have an issue with is that I don't like to see the postmodern neo-Marxists use the transsexual issue as a lever for pushing forward their political nonsense. And I said that right from the beginning in the videos I made to begin with. The reason I wouldn't use the words Z and Zer and all those other made-up words, however many there are now, is because I'm not willing to cede the linguistic territory to postmodern radicals. I'm not doing that. And they say, well, we're doing it on.
I want to pause there real quick and say he strictly understands not of the individual can't identify with themselves the way they want to. He's coming from the perspective of he doesn't want to, and the reason why is built on linguistics, and linguistics being a part of thought. And if you tell me how to talk, then you tell me how to think. Now let him finish making his point.
On behalf of the oppressed transsexual people. And I think, yeah, well, that's what you say, but there's no reason I should believe that. I don't believe anything you say. I think you're contemptible, cowardly, ideologically motivated, cult-like corruptors of the youth. So why would I use your language?
Well, let's unpack that, because one of the things that I find fascinating is how few transgender people want to use those words. The transgender people seem to want to identify with whatever gender they like. If you are a male to female.
This is also a true experience of my own, Desiree. When I was working at Parkland in the operating room, there was I'm going to respect his request now that I have more knowledge. So it'll be no more he, but just for backstory purposes. There was a person in the operating room, and I go in and we cleaned up the room, and he asked for something. I think we changed the bed out for the next patient, and I used the word he, or maybe sir. And he said no, it was he, because the person said, oh no, it's she, although they wasn't fully done transforming physically. So that's the reason why I didn't kind of know where to go with that. And I felt the way about it. I didn't get offended, of course.
Why did you feel a way about it, though?
Right. That's the reason why I do want to talk about that. I felt the way about it because I feel like her correction,
Yep.
her correction might have been valid on her side of things. However, I wasn't trying to misidentify her. So I know that it's not personal, but I just, like, if I did it again on accident, that's the part where I'm kind of exploring my opinion, and my stance on it all is that's going to take a lot of work. Muscle memory wise, like you see how much I'm struggling now. So I don't know, like you always reminded me that almost, I don't know. I just want you to be sensitive to the fact that that's all new.
I'm super okay. So maybe I should let's establish this.
That's what Fly With It was coming. He was like, "How do I like?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But literally all of us, any person that I know who's cisgender, which just simply means that you agree with the birth that you were assigned. You
Mm.
agree with the sex that you were assigned with at birth or the gender that you were assigned at birth.
You said cisgender.
Cisgender. S, not
Oh,
S.
C.
CIS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically any cisgender person that I know that is in community with trans people that loves trans people, we have literally all gone through. It's a constant learning. It's not like a one and done. This is how you say this thing to make sure that everyone feels good about it. It is a constant learning. So I don't want y'all to feel like anything that I say is like, don't do
Like
this.
condemning me or yeah.
Yeah, but I do get defensive about it just because like trans people, especially black trans people, are like literally killed very fucking often. And it's
You brought that
because
up
we
to
don't
me.
have these conversations.
I have a
Mhm.
I have a question. Is one is someone allowed to be offended if someone calls them cisgendered?
Hmm.
My I I don't traffic in like what's allowed and what's not allowed because like I don't think that we should police each other's language. I would just ask if you are offended by something that's literally an adjective, like why? Like, is that coming from you feeling there being certain feelings about
Well,
transness in
adjectives
general
have
or
been used
anything
Isn't that
that's
against
the
different?
people a lot. Hold on, adjectives have been used against people a lot. Like
Hmm.
whether it be the gender identity, I've had my art referred to as urban, and I'm not supposed to be offended by that, but I was.
hmm?
Hmm.
So if
That's a
someone
real.
refers to me as something I don't identify as, like if I don't identify as being cisgender, but someone calls me that, am I allowed to be offended, or am I supposed to be understanding to this new language?
It
Hold
might.
on, Fly. Is the difference the fact is they were talking about an object versus a person?
Mm,
Well, I'm looking at the word adjective particularly. Is
Right,
the term that
exactly.
was used.
That's my point that I'm making though. The pronoun would represent an actual person, right?
mm-hmm.
Versus
Pronoun,
the
yes.
adjective is representing your an object, your artwork, something without flesh and bone, you know? So it's like the artwork has a right to be offended more than you do in this logical debate. You know what I mean? Conversation. Does that
Well, I
make
believe
sense?
no, because I believe everyone should be called what they prefer to be called. Like I wholeheartedly believe that, right?
Right.
Now, when you start talking like you were saying in terms of language, like you don't want to use the wrong
Oh,
language,
okay.
then
I see
how
what you're
in
saying.
fact do you communicate that without being insensitive one way or the other? It's like a tug and pull.
That's
Yeah.
the biggest gray area of this whole thing is because I agree with everything that you said, Desiree. Like you've opened my eyes a lot too. Like you said, the transgender community, or I don't know if this is the right term, but the homosexual community. You've opened my eyes to like they do need people that are not homosexuals and not transgender speaking for them and making it a normal conversation because they're people. However, like linguistics can be used as a weapon,
Mm-hmm.
especially with 1984 and with everything like with surveillance cameras everywhere, with data mining going on everywhere. If you could technically be using the data to transform the human species through legislation on what you can and can't say. It
I
could be used as a weapon of
It has been.
destruction.
It literally
Yeah,
has been.
exactly. Yeah, that's
It's
true.
been going in the other way, which is
Right.
why whoever this person is, this Jordan, any conservative thought is literally the thought that everything is fine as is, nothing needs to change. And
Hmm.
we already know that that's not logical. Like
True.
we literally have to change. If
Change is the only
today
truth.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, which is why I can't. It's very, very, very hard for me to listen to conservatives speak because everything that they say is, well, I'm not changing that. Why do we have to change that? That's fucking liberal wet dream. Like, yeah, it's a fucking liberal wet dream, bitch. Like,
So so
that's
so
what the
so
whole
I
point
think
is.
I think what you're saying is I think what you're highlighting, which some people might not see just face value and surface, is one of the biggest advantages to him making this point is conserving the power that already is with where linguistics are already currently at
Yes,
versus
white,
having
straight
that
Christian
transfer.
men.
All
They
right, let's
have
finish
all
this.
that shit.
Especially since you said you cringe when you hear people like this talk, I want you to hear more.
Wow.
Female transgender person, you would prefer to be called a she,
Right.
like Caitlyn Jenner, right?
Right.
And pretty much everybody calls the artist formerly known as Bruce Jenner Caitlyn Jenner, right? That's just like if you had a look at how many people just openly accept that, it's pretty well accepted, right?
Mhm.
Most transgender people prefer that. They prefer female to male. They prefer to be a man now. I'm a man now. Okay, Bob, Dick, whatever your name is. There's not a lot of Zer talk.
Well, it's
Maybe I'm out of the loop.
No, you're not out of the loop. The other thing is those are all third person pronouns. It's like I'm not going to call you a third person pronoun while we're sitting here. I never would. If I'm referring to you when I'm talking to someone else, I
Call
might,
their name, right?
well, I could use your name.
Right.
I might use he then, but I
Right.
don't know. Well, it's
Right.
just all of it is palpably absurd. I think it's always hard to get the level of analysis for this sort of issue correct. Because the people who are pushing it forward say, well, we're against harassment and discrimination, and they attribute all the moral virtue to themselves. But then what I see is that they're utilizing a group, a very small minority group, who already have enough problems, in my estimation, for
He didn't have
nothing
to say
other than
that.
straightforward political purposes. I don't buy the warm-hearted, all-inclusive love that the people who are pushing this sort of thing forward claim to
I don't
display.
believe
I
that
don't see
either,
that at
nigga.
all. What I see mostly is resentment and the desire to undermine. And I'm quite familiar with the
Undermine
postmodern
what?
philosophy, not as familiar as I could be, and also reasonably familiar with its underlying Marxism. And there's nothing.
That was a really good question because it
I would say
didn't.
I've already watched this and I'm familiar with a lot of what both of you guys are talking about. So I'm gonna mute myself again.
No, don't mute yourself, bro. we're kind of at a good stopping point for now. You know what I mean? Like normally when I do these streams, especially about something that I don't know, when I post my reel, I'll post like notes from the stream that I go look up. So that's what I kind of plan on doing with this. Fly with it. Where you trying to go, bro? You want me? You about to leave? If so,
I'm
me and
not
Desiree
going
can
anywhere, sir. I was here to listen. I'm here for the conversation.
got you.
My viewpoint is like I'm neutral until I know what works, and
Same.
I'm hearing both sides. I'm still learning, so I'm still taking in the information. I
So
don't
the thing,
particularly understand the end goal and how this benefits both parties.
well, the thing is, you say neutral to see what works, and that's the only thing that has me out of the gray area that I normally sit in because we'll never know if we never try it.
Try what?
And if we never try to change the pronouns to something new and progressive. So, with that being said, though, one of the
Are
biggest
pronouns the problem?
listen, I was about to go there, my good sir.
Mute myself.
Listen. So, one of the biggest reasons why pronouns have to shift is because take for instance if someone is born Natalie Copeland and they own a home, they own a bank account, they own a car, they own a passport, their family is from Ireland, they could potentially their landlord could potentially fuck them over because of the pronouns on the paperwork. The government could potentially fuck them over because of pronouns on in the fine print of their citizenship. It becomes a legality situation. That's the reason why this makes. That's the only reason why I wanted to talk about this, bro, is because it is political. It's not just personal opinions. Like people have lost their homes People have been locked out of their bank accounts. People have killed themselves because of this. So that's the only reason why it's on my radar. It's not just because of me being a advocate to the community. That came later. And after it came, when Desiree brought it up, I started looking more into it to see like what could I advocate. And like this is one of the things that popped up. Is for people to know it. Like it's not just your everyday interaction that they want it changed for. They want it changed for their everyday interaction, not yours. Did that answer any of your questions?
No, but I'm listening.
Do you have any more questions then?
Not
I think that
particularly that's going to
I,
address anything
I think that
because
answers
y'all
some of
didn't
your
you didn't
questions,
answer
man.
my question already. Like I asked my question, it wasn't answered.
What was it? Repeat it for me.
Even with your response, I'm not understanding what is the long term benefit of calling someone their pronoun or not calling them their pronoun. Like you can just not use a pronoun in general. Would that solve the
Mhm.
underlying problem, whatever problem is?
I think your question about it, if it's really about pronouns, is important because pronouns are like a
I
part of
agree.
it. But the bigger thing is, we, as a society, we don't do well with people that are different, with people that have less than us, people that look differently than us, people that love differently than us. We just have like, it's like the white supremacy that's like corroding this whole fucking shit. Is we just, anything that's different we choose to demonize instead of just letting people fucking exist. um so the pronouns are like part of it, but to what you were saying, what is the long-term goal, just in being in better relation with each other, regardless of what our identities are. I think that's should be the long-term goal. Like I shouldn't, global warming is already like a fucking thing, but I shouldn't have to worry about like my potential future kids. Like if I have a trans child, what what world am I creating for my trans child? Is my child going to be that child that commits suicide? Is that my child going to be that child that's like
Hold
fucking
on. See,
clinically depressed?
Hold
I
on,
don't, I
well,
can't
real
get
quick
answers like
before your
this.
point, before your point,
Don't make me
the
sad and depressed to try to.
no
It's the reality.
the pronoun talk that you're bringing up doesn't matter. I think on that level it doesn't. I'm
Mhm.
with you on that, Rodney. Like because those are all theoretical and, like you said, emotional situations, potential situations on top of that. But the reality is what I told you, fam. Like if the pronouns do not change, it's some paperwork that these people have that technically is it's not valid anymore. Do you understand that? Like, I
You talking
mean,
about
that's
the ID card or
Mhm.
just the
no,
literal sense of
bro.
what you're
No,
speaking
the
of?
ID can change, but we're talking about the terminology of it. We're talking about so people just accept terms and agreements, but it's like 10 pages of fucking verbiage. And the verbiage has he in it, it has she in it, it has they in it. And if, bro, just, and I think this is a Venus thing. This is a Libra thing. Like just know, and probably a Gemini thing. Knowing that I can use those as loopholes, I can fuck you over because it doesn't say it. Your name was Natalie Copeland when you signed this. Yeah, you changed your ID. Cool. Yeah, the government acknowledged that. Yeah, you changed your passport. That was the local government. So now you changed your passport. The federal government acknowledged it. But this paperwork hasn't acknowledged the fact that you're not a he anymore. And I can use that in court. Like, so that is a concrete reason for me personally to like be on their side. Now, when you talked about the emotion, if you still had that thought, I do want to hear what you were about to say when you said that you can't have conversations like this. Cause I'm with you on that, bro. When it comes to like a logical debate.
Because from the information I gathered and what I hear, it seems to be like several arguments being put into one stream. Like can we talk about pronouns without talking about gender? Can we talk about like legality without talking about sexuality? And I understand the changing of identity, but how did that prevent stuff like identity theft or you creating a false identity? Like, does that protect or does that make that harder? Like, what's the overall end goal? Or we're just talking about something that's really small to LGBTQ.
I think okay, so I'm gonna push back a little bit on that thinking because and this was something that we had a previous conversation about. A lot of people that are not in community with a lot of queer people, it feels like any LGBTQ issue, it's like pushed off in the corner and then don't really have nothing to do with us. Every legislation that passed that is harming a queer black person harms you too, whether you know it or
Which
not.
legislation?
They just passed legislation saying that little trans girls can't play on the same, and these are elementary school kids. Little trans girls are not allowed to play on the same sports team as the girls' team. So that's causing that child to be outed for one,
And you feel
for
that
two, to be alienated
do you
Let
from
feel
her
their
that
finish her
peers.
point. Let her finish her point. Go
Two,
ahead.
to be alienated from their peers, and three, for other black girls, other black cis girls, not just trans girls. We're already hypersexualized and we're already viewed as being more masculine than other people. That comes back on all of us.
Hmm.
There's a rule now, literally right, just passed the Texas legislature, that says that technically schools can out their students for being trans by saying you can't play with the girls because you were assigned this at birth, even though they're literal kids. And that's traumatizing for a child that was brave enough and wise enough to say, this is who I am. I know who the fuck y'all thought I was, but this is who I actually am. And this is how I am presenting to you, and this is what I would like to be referred to
Okay.
as. A
Okay.
bunch of adults are sitting around and being like, no, you can't do that. And like I said, by extension, it harms other girls, whether they be trans girls or not, because we're already hyper criticized. And I know for men, it's
Oh,
hard to kind of see that full scope sometimes
well,
because
I want Rodney to be able to speak for himself for how he
mm-hmm.
sees the scope before we go there. Because I think that Rodney, like, he's asking some really good questions.
and she's not
Um,
answering them because she's trying to play on emotion. And I understand.
But what
I
question are you
understand that
asking that I didn't answer?
because I'm trying to be as literal as possible. So people that you say males, all these terminologies, males, conservative, liberals, all the terms you keep bringing up that we don't supposed to not adjective for, they have a certain way of thinking. So you have to break it down as literal, logically, and as scientific as possible without playing on people's emotion.
and I
Because
think this
everyone has an
helps.
agenda.
I think this
I don't know.
helps. First of all, I want to like put that out there. I think that hearing what Rodney has to say helps strengthen the argument to advocate for these like sectors of society because he has a neutral stance that
It's
is
not
grounded.
neutral.
And
Well, it's
I'm really
grounded. Hold
not.
on. When I say
I'm not.
neutral, I
She
mean it's
right. She
grounded
right.
in
I'm not
logic.
neutral. I'm not neutral.
I mean it's
And
grounded in logic.
right, it's granted not, but I'm not neutral. To be honest with you, I'm not, and it's not the way that she probably thinks I am, which is the problem. And that's why I feel like it's
Mm-mm.
problematic for you to be set. Like I feel like you may be closed minded because you feel like I'm the oppressor or I'm against your cause, and I'm not.
I
And
didn't
so
say
when you
none of that.
use, I understand, but
Well,
you use
he
certain
just
terminology that I don't identify with, and nor did this person in this video identify with. So I feel like when we put terms on stuff that someone didn't call themselves, we're putting them in a box already, and we cannot even have an unbiased conversation if you already put them in a box.
Jordan Peterson doesn't identify as a conservative.
I don't know what he
he does.
identifies as.
He definitely does.
Yeah,
I
I'm
haven't
pretty
listened enough to
sure.
the information to know.
Well, I'm telling you, he does. My question is this: since it came up, why do you think that legislation was passed? Like, what are your thoughts and opinions on it, Desiree? Like when you said that
Yeah,
the transgender girls can't play on the like, what is the
the same.
intention? Like,
Yeah, the same
it's so weird to
emotion.
me.
The same emotion that that Ronnie
Time
has pointed